See, life is a game, gotta have your goals. I gotta take a shot, now pass me the ball. Always wanna stop me, wanna run in the roll.
Hello and welcome to Pitch Football at the Euros with me, Iain Chambers, football reporter Abigail Davies, the one and only Mr. Paul Ince. And we've got a special guest on the show today who's come all the way from the UK to come and join us. It is one of the leading voices in boxing and MMA writing, video, you do it all. It's Mr. Gareth A. Davies. How are you doing?
Oh, it's just brilliant to be here. I mean, it's raining at home, there's storms everywhere. Dagenham, where you're from, there was a flood last night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable at the moment. It's amazing to be here, and I've experienced you all for a couple of days, and this is a tour never to forget.
I'm not sure what it means by that, but
Yeah. I
don't know if it was a compliment.
We'll just laugh, yeah.
You've got several gears, I've noticed. Gareth, what gear would you say you're in right now? Are we getting subdued, low-key, knowledgeable Gareth today?
You're going to get me bowing to all the expertise you three have shown over the last few weeks on football and my little knowledge that I have from 30 years in sports journalism. But can I, please, first of all, present you, because this show is about prizes sometimes, isn't it?
It is.
And I have some prizes for your efforts so far.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 3 large Toblerones.
Oh, come on now.
See, that one's not coming up first.
White chocolate. Right.
Well, you'll have to look. Okay. That one is just Toblerone.
Okay.
This one is Superstar.
Oh, who's that for?
That's for Abby, I presume.
Correct.
Oh,
that
wow.
is for Abby.
There you go,
Thank you
Abby.
very much.
Superstar.
Thank you.
See, I said that. It was meant for me,
Yeah,
but I said
no,
give it to
it
Abby.
was.
And
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
between...
You begged for it.
Oh, no, it was meant for me, but I said, no, give it to Abby, come on. It's a big day for her today, so...
I know who's going to pick
Yes,
this one
please.
for themselves. It's between Toblerone plain,
Yeah.
just Toblerone,
Yeah.
be it black or white,
Yeah.
and Superstar. We've had Superstar. We've got World's Best.
That's
Well,
why you
that's-
didn't want Superstar, because he wants World's
Don't you
Best.
dare
No,
give
it's got to
that
go
to
to
me. It's
Chambers.
got to go to Ince.
No, it's
gotta
No,
go to
it's
Ince.
a Mr. Ince
It is.
World's Best. I have watched the
Oh, that's
show,
good to-
Yeah.
and the butt of every joke is Iain.
So I just get these.
So poor old Iain, even though he's won all the money off everyone in all the competitions going, he gets the Toblerone. Guys, that's my
thank you
gift
so
to you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
so
much, guys. It's a pleasure.
I am remaining a vegan, but this will be consumed by
Put it in the
someone.
shades, you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's keep
just,
it in the
I want it facing so everyone can see it.
There you go, world's best.
Yeah, just like... Oh, lucky son.
I keep forgetting that some of you are sat in the shade.
Gareth, thank you. And thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you very
we
much.
are going to talk football very soon, but Abby, you've got something in your bonnet and we need to
have.
guess what it is.
Yeah.
We do this on the show quite regularly. Gareth, we have yes or no questions that we get to ask. Abby, we try and guess what's in
Do you know
her
what it
beehive. Do you want to go first, Ince? First question.
Can you drink it?
Nope.
Can you eat it?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, that's a good start for us, isn't it?
let's go.
That's
Gareth,
better
get
than
involved.
normal.
Anything, come on, you can eat it.
Is it iconically Welsh?
No.
Would it be in a salad?
Yes.
You're flying today, aren't you?
Let's go,
That's
let's
good.
go.
Is it a tomato?
Nope.
Is it actually in there?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what it's called, Abby's Barnet. Jesus. Where do you get him from?
Stick with combat sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it a cucumber?
It is.
Oh.
Come on now. Come on now.
It's not a whole one.
Got that part there. We've got...
That is
There
amazing.
you go. It's
Hey.
a chunk of a cucumber.
That's
Listen, there's
amazing.
so much football to talk about. Thank you. And I want to talk about football. Do you have a fact of the day, Ince?
I do have a fact of the day.
Yes, let's go.
It's an interesting fact, to be honest.
Yeah.
They all are.
I never knew this one, and probably Gaz will probably appreciate it even more. Do you know when you see someone on a horse, like in a statue?
Yeah.
Right? So you see someone sitting on the horse in a statue. If the 2 front legs are off the floor, that means it's died in battle. If one leg is off the floor, that means it died from wounds that it received in battle. And if both legs are on the floor, that means he died of natural causes.
Wow.
What?
So every time you see a horse or something sitting there, you look at
I've
their
seen
legs
plenty.
to see whether they died in battle, died with a wound received, or died of natural causes. That's my fact of the
Wow.
day.
Love it. Ince's fact of the day,
I'm
Gareth.
back.
He's back,
boom,
baby.
boom, boom,
I'm back.
boom.
He's back.
It's real again.
You must have known
It's
that,
real
surely,
again.
Gaz.
Absolutely.
We are about, I don't know how many minutes into this show we haven't spoken about football.
No.
Let's talk about today's games. Good stuff coming up. Netherlands versus the Czech Republic. The Netherlands right now, we've said it a million times, they're flying, top goal scorers coming out of their group, but they're not going to be in Amsterdam for this one. They're moving across to Budapest. So the question is, can that cause a shift in energy in the team?
I don't know. I'm not too sure. I think they're flying. It doesn't matter where they play, the Dutch at the moment, and Abby's definitely Abby's favourites to win the whole thing. I think, apart from Belgium. But it's different because when you play Amsterdam and you see that sea of orange, listen, it's not far from Amsterdam, Budapest. So I'm sure they'll take as many fans as they can there. But they're bang on form, and you can't see anybody about Netherlands winning, can you, Hebs?
No, absolutely not. And I know that the Czechs prevented Holland from getting to Euro 2016. They beat them twice in qualification. But I don't think when you've got the attack force that Holland have, I don't think that's going to be a factor at all. I think when you look at the players, we've spoken about Wijnaldum, De Ligt at the back, and they've just got a core, but they've also got youth and experience in there, which I think is crucial for them. We did question whether they'd have the strength in depth, but I think they've got enough in there. De Ligt missed the first game, and they still played well. And I think I can't say anything other than and
they're strong.
win.
I mean, they haven't got picked up any injuries, have they? No. Really? That's the most important thing in tournament football.
Yeah.
It can make or break you, can't it?
It can. Your top players not to have any injuries. And I mean, they haven't got any at the moment, so you got to fancy them to win that game.
But I don't know how I feel about their fans are already singing that they've won the Euros when they're at games. Don't know how I feel about that.
You won't catch Wales fans singing it, that's for sure.
You catch England fans singing that.
Oh yeah, because we're going to win it.
Gareth, obviously Holland are going into this as the favourites, but in all sports you can never write off the underdog.
No, and I think you can't write off people in tournaments. It's about momentum, isn't it? And it's about things that go wrong and go right. And I think, I agree with both Abby and Paul, even though I don't kind of it way over my head what they're talking about. But I agree with both of them completely. But I think Holland have always had that ability in tournaments. They rise with their fans. You mentioned their fans because they're incredibly proud. Stylistically, they've always got it as well. And I think they are one of the favourites in the tournament. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them get to the semis or even beyond. It would really not surprise me. I think they've got this nailed.
I don't think you can fully write off this Czech side. Ince. Schick, for example, he has bagged 3.
That's your man, isn't it?
He's my man.
I thought Kane was your man.
Goal of the tournament.
Sorry, you're talking about Kane. I'm just going to deal with this ant I've got on me while you talk about Kane.
You sort of that. Yeah, because Schick can be a match winner for this team.
He can, and we've seen his wonderful goal against Scotland. He's a goal scorer. This is someone who's a very talented striker.
Yeah.
He went to Roma for £40 million, so he's got loads of ability. I just think looking at the basis of the England game at Wembley, Czech didn't really offer much today. To be fair, it was quite plain sailing for the English team, and England weren't great. Let me tell you, they weren't great. So you can look at an informed, as Gaza said, about an informed team who's got the momentum going into this game. You've got to fancy the Dutch, but I've always maintained it's knockout football.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Love it.
But they haven't been clinical. I think that's the thing. They've looked solid at the back, and at times against England they controlled possession for small periods, but they're not clinical in front of goal. I don't think we've seen. I'm a big Thomas Souček fan. I don't think we've seen him have the influence that he normally has in the Premier League. I don't think we've seen him dominate games like he can, and I don't think we will. I don't think we will today.
This is the thing, because they do these national teams. They play differently to West Ham.
Exactly.
Found Souček. West Ham like to get more balls into the box, which benefits Souček. But I just don't think they've got enough.
No, I don't.
I've done what the rest of the country's done at home. I've watched the Wales games, I've watched the England games. I want both teams to do brilliantly. What I have noticed in it...
You watched the Wales game?
Yeah, of course I watched the Wales game. Gareth.
Davies.
Was there nothing better on Netflix?
No, there wasn't at the time. I had 180 minutes of really good sleep while England were playing.
You better be here for the full show.
But what I'd say is... one of the teams that's really impressed me, just to digress, is Italy, where they're not sitting back getting a 1-0 lead and sitting. They're playing. And I think, and this is what I was going to ask Paul, was when you're at this stage now and it's knockout and it's extra time and it's penalties and all of that kind of scenario, is it better to play and go out there and play and win the tournament, or sit on your game plan?
Listen, I like to think game plans are different in relation to what teams you're playing against, but you're right about the Italians. I mean, they've got this kind of fast attacking flow in football, and once they lose it, they've got this kind of like 5-6 second rule where they win it back.
Absolutely.
They smother you, 3-4 men on one man,
But it's a reflection of Roberto Mancini as well, isn't it? And I mean, I ghosted Collins with him years ago for the Telegraph, and he's got a flair about him,
Yes, and listen, I mean, they're playing, as I said, they're playing a bit like the Dutch to a certain extent. And this is what I talked about England, the way we've played in the last 3 games, this is the way we're going to go forward with it. You know, because you can't just turn on a tap and say 1 minute we're going to defend deep, next minute we're going to push high. But I think, the Italians will be playing some fantastic football.
Let's just briefly touch on what, in my opinion, is the tie of the round. The Red Devils, they take on the European champions. It's Belgium versus Portugal. I can almost see you salivating there. Are you excited?
That's the Toblerone.
You do agree that it's got to be the tie of this round, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Clash of 2 heavyweights. They've had completely different routes to this point. You know, Belgium have been in cruise control. They've not really had to get out of third gear, whereas Portugal, you know, they've struggled. They were in the group of death. To come out of that, I think, is
ride, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And I think to get out of that group, that'll give them confidence. But they're going to need more. I think, you know, you see Fernandes being dropped for the last game. I think that was the right call. We talked about it before the game, saying that Renato Sanchez should come into that 11. He did, and I think they have to stick with him.
I want to get more of your 2 thoughts on this epic fixture in just a moment, but let's just rewind for a second. Let's get some predictions for the first one. Czech versus Holland. Where are you going?
I'm going Holland 2-0.
2-0. What are you saying?
You're saying the same, Scott, all the time. I'm going Holland 3-0.
The governor has spoken. What do you reckon?
2-1 Holland.
2-1 Holland.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
okay.
assertive.
Look at that. And Gareth's never wrong.
I believe it as well. The way he said that, I was like, yeah, that's
watch
happening.
the beginner's luck.
Okay, we shall see. If you haven't already downloaded the Pitch Football app, you need to do it, and you need to do it now. See you after the break.
They say life is a game, gotta have your goals. They say life is a game, gotta have your goals.
Welcome back to Pitch Football at the Euros with me, Iain Chambers, Abigail Davies, Paul Ince, and this man right here, Gareth A. Davies. Gareth, you enjoying yourself so far on the show?
I'm loving it. Cannot wait for the next night out with you 3.
Oh, it's going to be spicy, isn't it?
I can after the last one.
Yeah. I might wait a year to recover. You know? So let's get back into Belgium, Portugal, Ince. It is the tie of the round. No denying
It's
it.
not the tie of the round.
What do you think it is?
England, Germany's the tie of the round.
Ooh.
For sure, it has to be.
Even for a neutral?
Yeah, even for a neutral, England,
You
Germany,
reckon?
got to be tied of the round.
All right, I'm with you.
But we're going to talk about the Belgians, obviously. Listen, they're going to be favourites. But, you know, we talked about it before about the way the Portuguese defend. They like to defend deep. They're not going to give the Belgian players enough room, especially that final third, to do what they've got to do. But I think on paper, you know, you've got to fancy the Belgian. But then again, we've got R7.
I know,
you know,
that's
golden boot leader at the moment.
I called it.
You know, did you say something?
Yeah, it was. I was just waiting for you to wrap it up. I didn't want to.
I thought you were going to ask me a question. So
No, well, I was just going to say that you say that, but Belgium play quite similarly to Germany, or they set up similarly. We saw the problems that Germany caused out wide. So, do you think they'll be able to handle Belgium's wide players?
I don't think there'll be a problem with the Portuguese, because Portugal don't really play. I mean, Cancelo getting injured was a massive thing from COVID, because he gives them that kind of width and taking flow.
They couldn't deal with Germany's width.
No, I think that's the way Germany played.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? More than what the Portuguese are. I mean, I don't think, looking at the games throughout the group stage, that Portuguese have been very convincing. They've kind of got lucky to where they are today.
But Belgium, I mean, so Belgium play quite similarly.
But
so
Belgium
then
play 3 at the back. I mean, last time they played 3 at the back. You know, Germany played with 4 at the back. So it allows the wing backs like Kimmich to get forward. That was a problem. Whether Portugal decides to listen, let's do what the Germans did and go 3 at the back, because when you've got Pepe there who's 38 and Fonte, you know, it might be a good idea to play 3 centre halves. So I wouldn't surprise if they actually went that way, on the basis that sometimes you look at the teams that have done well against these teams and you think maybe that's the way we should go and go 3 at the back.
When it comes to Portugal, you can't write off the likes of Silva and Jota, but when you talk about Ronaldo, there's no denying that this team are out to get him. You know, Alderweireld said, what's the best way to stop Ronaldo as a team? And that's always been our strength. Do you think that could cause them problems, having that mentality where they've just got to be watching out for one star player?
It's a problem, because I think, you know, if you start focusing all your concentration on one player, then somebody else is going to hurt you. You know, I'm not sure who it's going to be. Could João Felix,
Ronaldo Sanchez.
Ronaldo Sanchez.
Yeah.
And they've got enough talent on there to hurt the Belgian side. So I think if you kind of focus, I mean, you don't really need to focus on Ronaldo. It's not like he goes out wide. He's going to beat 2 or 3 players. It's only when the ball comes into his box and his movement, that's when he comes alive. So as long as they're aware of that, then I don't think there's any problem. You're not living at R7.
All right, let's get some predictions. Starting with you, Abs.
I'm going to go.
What's yours going first?
All right,
All right, you
him
go
go
first, Ince. You go first.
I'm going to go
He's trying to think what I'm going to go for.
2-1 Belgium.
Ooh, okay.
That's not what I was going to go
Gareth?
for.
Well, I'm having picked Ince's brain earlier as well. I mean, I think, I think Belgium, they're always incredibly clinical in the way they play, and I think they take their opportunities. And I love this guy, Kevin De Bruyne. He could end up as the star of the tournament if they go all the way. As Ince was telling me, Portugal are an ageing side in spite of Ronaldo. 2-1 Belgium, 2 goals for De Bruyne.
Look at this. Gaza and Ince on the same
Beginner's
page.
luck, I'm
Again,
telling you.
it's like 96 on.
No,
I'm going 3-1 Belgium.
3-1 Belgium.
Different.
All right, tell you what. Speaking of Gaza, we've spoken there about De Bruyne. We've spoken about Ronaldo. It's interesting when you think about the players that really step up on an international stage at big tournaments. Let's talk about big game players. Gaza was one of them. What made him such a big game player back in '96?
Listen, first and foremost, he was a world-class player. You know, not just in international football, but just in club football in general. I mean, I've never seen anyone play the way he plays. You know, when you talk about players going on the pitch and you say, play with freedom, play as if you're playing in the park, play as if it doesn't matter to you. They're the great players.
Yeah.
They're the ones who they just do what they want to do. And Gaza had that in abundance, and I mean, the Scotland game was a fine example.
Absolutely.
I mean, no one would have scored that goal apart from Gaza. Absolutely no one. Yeah. You talk about Shearer, Teddy Sheringham, no one would have scored that goal. And I've had the privilege of playing with him, in midfield, and he had absolutely everything. There's nothing he couldn't do. He had that little edge, he had a bit of naughtiness. That's how we talk about Grealish, and I'm not comparing the two because I think Gaza's miles ahead of Grealish. But he was strong. I always just kind of gripe about Grealish, and I said it to Abby the other day. Sometimes he's a bit dramatic when he falls out on the park.
Yeah.
Gaza will ride tackles.
Yeah.
And by riding it, he opens up the defence. He gets his arms up and arm people off. Yeah. And I think that's something that Grealish needs to learn if he wants to get to that level.
Yeah.
It's the willingness to score and the desire to score as opposed to winning a free kick.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
You can see that desire in people's physicality. I mean, you had it, of course, in abundance. And I think when you look at people like Gaza, I think, not just from a player's perspective, as a fan, as a sports writer, when there's certain people are performing, you actually turn off the computer and you go and watch television, be it Ben Stokes, be it Andrew Flintoff, Johnny Wilkinson in the World Cup with England in rugby. There are people you switch on for, because the whole world tunes in, and I think that those people, like yourself, like the Gazas of this world, they respond because they know the world's watching. And it's part of a super ego, a super id that they have inside them, and it gets something special out of them.
I love it. Right, hold that thought, because one man we're waiting to see if he's going to be a big game player throughout this tournament is Harry Kane. Let's cross over to the UK. James Helder, the Euro Bureau, has been talking with Brian Dean and the gang all about the man.
I'm James Helder, welcome back to the Euro Bureau. Thank you to my esteemed colleagues joining me today, none of them Brian Dean, Maddie Cusack and Lee Bullen. Great to have you guys with me. Today, I'd like to discuss Harry Kane.
I'm a fan, I like Harry Kane, I'll tell you why.
What do you like about Harry Kane?
His all-round game. He is he's left foot, right foot. He's shown a lot of intelligence. The one thing that I would say that really now, if you look at people talking about Harry Kane being worth 120 million, that's for what he's done in the past. You've got to calculate what he's going to be worth going forward. And it might be 120 million, I don't know.
Would a form in a tournament dictate his value? You're valuing him on past performances.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
The tournament for Harry Kane's value is regardless, he's not going to change it.
No,
I don't think so.
He's a quality player, so I don't think that matters. But he's got everything. It's hard to see how you value a player like that personally.
I think with Man City needing a striker as well, like Sergio Aguero's departure, it leaves a big void. Harry Kane is obviously homegrown as well. He'll fill into that quota. And I think someone like City would love to have an English talisman striker. Is Kane good enough for that role, in your opinion?
100%. You look at the opportunities that Spurs create, put him in a Man City team with the opportunities they create, and his finishing ability it's unbelievable. He's having a tough time, and I think he'd be the first to admit he's not had the best of starts to the tournament. But when you look at what he's done in the past, I'm not going to say mediocre because that's unfair on Spurs, certainly not as good as Man City, put it that way. Yeah. And the guys have got pulling strings in it. You've got Fodens and Sterlings and the lads have got in the Man City squad there. They're going to create chance after chance after chance, and he's going to score an absolute bucket. You put if you were a betting man, which I'm not, you put a tenner on Harry Kane being top scorer next year if he signs for Manchester City. But I think there's a lot of water under the bridge before that comes. Daniel Levy's not an easy character to work out, and he'll get the price he wants.
Lee,
what's best for the club.
Do you think that Man City will have to change the way how they play to accommodate that?
Big point. I mean, Heung-min Son seems to do a lot of the running for Kane at Spurs. He seems to be the talisman for Kane to peel off. He's getting him space by exploiting these positions.
Yeah, but again, I don't think they'll play because they play through the thirds, and Harry won't have to drop short. He's been doing the last season. He's actually changed his game a little bit, I think, under Mourinho. He was dropping really short, being a link and almost a false number 9. Man City do that. They've done it a lot, even with Aguero or even with Jesus. And they play through, so it's not as if they're going to be banging balls in the channel for Harry to chase, which is, I think he'd admit, he's not the quickest, he's not a Lukaku. Yeah. But he'll be able to link things and he'll be able to get himself in the danger area, and I don't think he'll have to adjust his game a great deal. I don't think Manchester City would have to adjust their game a great deal, and I think that's the reason Pep's looking at it.
There's only a few teams that have the financial clout to be able to sign someone like Harry Kane. If the Man City deal doesn't come to fruition, where else do you see a viable target for Harry Kane next season?
Man United are interested, aren't they? So from what I'm reading in the media, whether or not they pay that kind of money, I really don't know. Yeah. And the other options are going abroad, in my opinion. I don't think any other English club will match it personally. Chelsea maybe.
Do you see Harry Kane going abroad? Do you think he's a type of character would thrive in Spain or Italy or one of the top leagues abroad?
But I don't think anybody's got those kind of finances abroad.
Interesting.
I mean, Barcelona are buying free. They're in for free transfers. You know, Real Madrid seem to want Mbappe. So I think that Harry Kane's going to want to stay here anyway. I think, like Lee said, he's made a brilliant case for Manchester City to buy him, and I think that, you know, having listened to what you've said, really, it's made me think that it could be a really good signing for them. But I don't know. I think
he's more suited to Man City than Manchester United. I think Manchester United need a more dynamic kind of striker. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. I think Cavani's more dynamic, he's probably older, but slightly more dynamic as well.
A great player.
I just think the way Man City play would suit Harry and play to his strengths, personally.
It's interesting stuff, so we will see how it unfolds involving Harry Kane. I'm excited myself to see how it plays out. Over to you guys.
Thank you, James. Looks like the weather's good over there in England as well, which is nice to see. Okay, Ince, we've got like 50 seconds to wrap this up. We've been speaking about big game players. Can Harry Kane be a big game player at the back end of this tournament?
He has to be. If we're going to progress and get to where we want to get to, he's got to start playing. And we saw the last game that it looks like he's got his confidence back. He had a couple of shots, he had a couple of chances. Fingers crossed, mate, because we need him to be firing.
What numbers? We've got 30 seconds. Harry Kane, how many goals in this tournament? Go.
0.
Whoa, that's my thing. You?
2.
2?
2.
4. I've changed my mind.
Wow.
Nah, I'm sticking to my guns. 0. All right, if you haven't downloaded the Pitch Football app, do it now. We'll be back after the break. See you soon.
They say life is a game, gotta hop your toes. I gotta take a shot now. They say life is a game, gotta hop your toes. I gotta take a shot now. Pass me the ball.
Welcome back to Pitch Football at the Euros with me, Iain Chambers, Abigail Davies. You know this man, it's Paul Ince, and one of the most prolific writers in combat sports history, Gareth A. Davies.
Not one,
most prolific.
Wow, you're too kind.
Gareth, just a quick heads up to anybody watching this who hasn't got involved with pitch boxing. It's exciting, and you're part of that, aren't you?
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and I think, you know, it's all part of Unified Promotions. Susanna Schofield, OBE, becoming a boxing promoter. I think it's brilliant that women's boxing is to the fore at the moment, and perfect timing as far as I'm concerned. And the pitch boxing app, absolutely brilliant. Fans can get involved, can't they? And that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about, and that is the same with the Pitch Football app. If you haven't downloaded it already, just go wherever you get your apps, search Pitch Football, download the app, and there's lots to get stuck into within it, including some amazing prizes that you can win. You could win a round of golf with Mr. Paul Ince, so that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Very impressive.
You wouldn't fancy that, would you guys?
No, not at all. Not this man. He's competitive about tiddlywinks.
He's a very competitive.
You want to see him? He'd be competitive in a tickling competition. It's one of those things, actually. When you watch football today, you'd have been done for GBH.
I would love to see a tickling competition.
Let's do it right
Can
now.
we have a tickling competition? Tickle off.
To be fair, I mean, people say that to me about, you know, if you played in today's football, you know, I would have struggled, but I don't think I would, because, you know, the art of tackling is dying. It's a dying breed. You know, when you look at the great tacklers, the Sinuses, the Gerrards, you know, I had an art of tackling. I knew how to tackle, you know, and I think we're losing that art nowadays. And when you kind of think about it, it's so important, because I think we talk about 75% of goals conceded from free kicks, fouls, corner kicks, that type of stuff, through fouls. So people can't tackle, just giving away silly free kicks, are conceding goals, which are getting teams beat. I mean, there's something we go away from. You know, how do you teach someone to tackle?
What's changed?
I think the aggressivity in the game's changed. You can't do this, you can't do that. We're trying to make it a game where there's no contact.
It's becoming a non-contact sport.
Is there more fear, do you think, amongst players now than there was with you to put your foot in?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think people are scared to get hurt. You know, and the thing is, normally, you know, if I was tackling someone and I could see that he was scared coming into a tackle, you know, I knew I had him. Nowadays, people are so scared, it becomes, rather than a 50-50 tackle,
it's the other way around, isn't it?
It becomes a 70-30 tackle, because one player doesn't want to get...
That's it.
And that's how they get injured.
And there's thoughts of diving as well in the mind, right? In some players, not all.
Well, it is, and I think we've had this for many, many years now. Since we've had a lot of foreign players come over to it, because they do bring it over.
They do.
You know, I mean, I played in Italy for 2 years, and the amount of diving and screaming, and I think, well, you know, I got sent off twice. I didn't even do anything.
There's no repercussion.
No.
You know, it should be. You watch that back. Okay, we've got VAR now, but you should be able to watch that incident back and give a retrospective punishment, whether it's a ban or financial, whatever it is, and that acts as a deterrent. There's no deterrent. That player wins a free kick and they think, oh, I can do that again now. And other people watch it, other players watch it, and it's almost a disadvantage if you don't dive. And I hate saying that, because I hate, regardless, you know, if it's my team, when we watched Wales and Dan James went down easily, I still hate seeing that, regardless of whether my team gets an advantage. I don't like seeing that.
No.
I want to see a 50-50 challenge. A ball in the middle of the grass down there. You and Ince. Charge. No roundhouse kicks. All right, Gareth?
Okay, fair enough. No roundhouse kicks.
Who gets the ball? We'll have to do that. We all know who's coming.
Listen, this guy's upper body physicality as a player. What was brilliant about you was your centre of gravity. The higher your centre of gravity, the better, or in a way. And you had that incredible ability. What I wondered about tackling finally was, do you think they trade? Because it's about timing and it's about practice and practice and it's timing, isn't it?
It's about timing. It's about angles. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into tackling. You know, you see so many tackles now, Gareth, where people kind of try to tackle from behind, and any contact they're going over, and they're making silly tackles around the 18-yard box. So it's about the angle that you run at someone. You know, I mean, if I was running at someone like, say, Chambers, who was right-footed, you know, I'll make sure I'd run at this side, take someone to his left foot. So if he's going to shoot, he's going to shoot on his weaker foot, or make an angle where I can actually see the ball. You know, nowadays the people just run behind them, the legs get all muddled up, and they can shoot.
But it's a game of physicality, and presumably the idea of tackling is you're blocking their forward advance and you're trying to win the ball, aren't you? Those are the two objectives.
And you're trying to intimidate them.
And you're for the physicality of it, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, speaking of objectives, England's objective on Tuesday is to progress through the round of 16. It's an iconic encounter versus Germany. We can't wait for it. We're going to be sat together watching it. You're going to be there as well.
Oh, she'll be there, don't worry about that. She will be there.
You know better than anybody what this rivalry means. Euro 96, we all know how it ended. Heartbreak, penalties, and I know that you caught up with a man who was also on that pitch with you, all about penalties. David Seaman.
Yep, H. Nickname H. Yeah, we had a conversation about, because Dave Seaman was one of those people. I mean, he had a great time in Spain when he got through to quarterfinals on penalties, and he saved the penalties. And I just want to know his mindset, because we always talk about the Gazzers and the Shearers and the Sheringham's and those top players, but we never actually talk about the goalkeeper and what his mindset is actually facing a penalty.
Yeah.
So
check it out.
Let's do it. Let's hear it. But just talking about the penalties, you know what I mean? I think we don't really talk about penalties and what goes through the keeper's minds, you know what I mean? And you've got a great record of saving penalties, you know, even the Callister one in the Spanish, not so much in the Germans. Don't know. What happened to the Germans? You didn't save a penalty. What's wrong with you?
I touched one. I got my fingers on one. That's how good they were.
Just like the mindset that goes, what goes in your head. I mean, because you do obviously a lot of research, you know, about the penalty takers, how they take it, whether they go. At the time, because it's like anything, we can all practice penalties in training, but when it comes to that moment, you know, in front of 67,000 fans, what are you thinking? Are you still thinking go back to the playbook and see where they put it, or are you just looking into their eyes?
No,
or the way
because I never did that, Ince. All I did is I took it on the run up. The angle at which they approached the ball dictated to me which way I was going to go. And what I would wait for is that some players, like, they run in to take a penalty and they're looking at you, and then at the last minute they go to kick the ball, right? So as soon as they were like that, that's when I would go. You know, so they didn't know which way I was going to go. And, you know, you see some now, I think Hazard does it. He does it unbelievably. He doesn't even look at the ball to strike it. He watches the goalkeeper all the way in and then side foots it. But I used to love penalties, obviously, because I was, you know, pretty successful at it. But people say to me, you must have been so nervous and everything. I'm like, no, this is a chance of glory for me. Because this is as close as it comes to scoring a goal, I would imagine. You know, because I was one of those goalkeepers that never ever went up. I never went up for corners.
It's only because you couldn't get back. That's what it was.
I know. Well, I saw Peter Schmeichel try and get back for Man United, and he pulled his hamstring, and I was crying with laughter.
I remember it well.
So that's why I never went up. But I used to love penalties, you know, because you never expected to save them. You know, and if you don't get blamed. Even if you let one in that you should save, you don't get blamed anyway. So it's a chance of glory, and it was a free hit, and I used to look forward to it so much.
Do you think, like, in today's football, as a goalkeeper, just keeping a foot on the line, the penalties, do you think that would be an advantage to you or a disadvantage to you?
I was never one that came right out of, you know, you see some goalkeepers that take a step forward and then go to the side. I was never really one like that, but it's a case of adapting. Look, if I could get used to the back pass rule, I'm sure I could get used to that penalty rule. That back pass rule was a lot harder to get used to, trust me.
Talk about a friendship that I imagine will last a lifetime. You two together, it's great.
Yeah, we are. We're very good friends, and we remain so. I think it's kind of weird, you know, when you kind of finish your career. You know, you kind of, like, football's like ships in the night. You just one minute they're your friends, next minute you don't see them for the rest of your life. But me and David Seaman have always stayed in contact. You know, he's a lovable giant. He's a world-class goalkeeper, and it's just interesting to see. You know, we talk about keepers coming out and trying being heroes and giving away silly penalties, and you touched on about, you know, they want their bit of glory, didn't they? That's and sometimes it's not there for them to do it, but they rush out like lunatics, give a penalty away because they want a bit of glory. But lovely man.
Great man.
Great man. Needs his moustache back on, I think.
Oh, I think he should bring the stash back.
Who told him to lose the
back?
cash?
Well, he's a big lump, so I'm not going to say anything. He's 6'4".
I was going to say, why didn't you say that to his face?
No, it's too big. But to be fair, I used to know, but when we used to sit around the dinner table, I used to call him H, that was his nickname, you know what I mean? And I used to say, where's David Seaman? All of a sudden, this big hair would come right on top of my head. He said, I'm behind you. Like that. Oh, sorry, H. You know what I mean?
Gareth, it was fascinating to hear the mentality of a goalkeeper when it comes to the perspective of, you know, trying to save a penalty, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I had the privilege of being an Arsenal correspondent when Arsene Wenger came to Arsenal between 1996 and 2000. I even wrote for the Club magazine at the time and interviewed David many times. The great thing about him and what we learnt there was it wasn't about them taking the penalty, it was the decision where he was going to save it. And that super ego that I talked about earlier, that was his moment. I think you know, obviously there's Gordon Banks, there's Shilton. For me, he's right up. You can make an argument he's the greatest England goalkeeper of all time.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. You know, I mean, but it's funny that when he said about like there's no pressure on a goalkeeper when it comes to penalty.
It's that moment.
You know, I kind of think there is in a degree.
Absolutely.
I think there is, because I think you're us as the 10 outfield players, we're relying on our goalkeeper to save a penalty. So we expect him to save it because he's that good. So when he doesn't, and as I said to you in the conversation that we had, you know, he was fantastic against Spain in the penalty shootout. Didn't save any in the German game. Yeah. So what was wrong with you? You know what I mean? The best goalkeeper. You know what I mean?
The abiding memory of Seaman, though, like you said, this hand presence. Always had presence, didn't he?
Yeah, giant of a man.
Giant.
Abs, obviously, maybe when you're watching your own national team, penalties are pretty uncomfortable to watch. But as a neutral in big tournaments, you've got to love it, right?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, given England's fortunes in penalties, I'm not that bothered about Wales taking penalties.
Really?
I think having seen England do it, pressure's off us. We've not really had many situations. You know, realistically, we've not had situations like you have. You know, this is 2016, first major tournament of my lifetime.
Yeah, you've never been to the mountaintop,
yeah. No, I haven't.
No, you haven't.
We own that. Yeah, we haven't.
Absolutely. Right. We are going to go to our final break of the show. We're about to get into our final section. So much more to discuss. And this man might be having some hot sauce. It's going to be spicy, literally, after the break. See you then.
They say life is a game, gotta have your goals. I gotta take a shot, now pass me the ball. They say life is a game, gotta have your goals.
Pitch football at the Euros with me, Iain. We've got Abby, we've got Ince, and joining us, a very special guest for the very first time. Maybe the last, I hope not. I hope we can have you on again. It is iconic, prolific combat sports writer, Mr. Gareth A. Davies. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and it's been brilliant to be on with you today.
I've been thinking about potentially doing my impression of you and see what you think of it.
Go away.
This is Gareth A. Davies. Nah, I did it better last night in the pub.
You did it much better when we had food. Yeah.
Ince, tell me, what was it like when Southgate took that penalty? Tell me more.
That's
Am
I that intense?
No, it's so
Am I that
intense. You're so
intense?
intense.
Can you say
Am
that?
I that posh?
Can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah.
Ince, what was it like when Southgate took that penalty?
You've
It was
nailed
the
it.
same.
You've nailed
Yeah.
it.
It was
You've
the same.
absolutely
I
nailed
think
it.
you've actually done it better than him.
I did Gareth better than Gareth.
You do better. You do better than me.
That's very
You just
good.
need the T-shirt now.
That's it.
Yeah.
Listen, Gareth, I'm a huge fan of everything that you've done in your journalistic career up until this point. I feel like you're only just getting started, but you have been ringside for boxing fights that I could only dream, and many of our viewers could only ever dream of being ringside for. Just tell us about some of your highlights and some of those iconic moments in your life.
Well, early in my career, as a boxing correspondent, I'd say in the late 90s, being around some Mike Tyson fights were extraordinary. We were talking about Mike Tyson, weren't we, yesterday? Just everything was off the charts. You know, when he came to the UK and he fought Julius Francis, and we got to see him in all his pomp and all that kind of... When you're around him, there's an electricity about the man. But, you know, I covered the careers of Nazim Hamid in America, on those journeys, him trying to convert me to Islam one day. It was like really extraordinary people. There are extraordinary people at the top of boxing. The Ricky Hatton journey, the Joe Calzaghe journey, Carl Froch, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Anthony Joshua's rise, Tyson Fury. I'm very close. He calls me Russell Crowe for some reason. But he does. But you get close to these people, but you must never get too close. Yeah. Because
you have to criticise.
They're working projects. Yeah, I will critique everyone, but I'll only write what I would say to their face.
You just mentioned a highlight reel of some of the greatest of all time. Pound for pound, who's the best you've seen in the ring?
It's definitely Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
There's no question about it, because people say, oh yeah, he's so defensive and he got through this and he timed everyone right in his career. When you watch him in the first 2 or 3 rounds of a fight, he is electrically fast as his adrenaline and his nerves kick in. He's extraordinary.
You a fan of Floyd, Ince?
Yeah, I am. I think to go 50-0 You know, takes some doing. You know, I know Cole Foch did it, but I mean, just the fact that he's fought all these fighters. He fought
Joe Calzaghe.
Joe Calzaghe was he fought you know, Canelo at the start.
Yeah.
Canelo couldn't even touch him.
Yeah.
You know, the fact he's got an art of how to hit and not being hit.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's why he's still doing fights now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, because
20 years.
20, yeah.
5 weight divisions.
And he still looks like he's just starting out, doesn't he? He looks good. He looks great. You know, he looks physically still great.
On that YouTuber fight, though, that's a different level of thing. He didn't get up for that fight with Logan Paul.
He didn't need to.
Day. He was never going to lose it. It wasn't judged anyway.
But he didn't need to.
And people think, people can just come into the sport and do it. I get the new YouTube thing. It's the digital revolution, numbers, and sports entertainment. But there's an art to boxing. And we
Even
never
if you
forget
didn't
that.
feel like that you agreed with the YouTube boxing phenomenon that's going on right now, you've had a knack throughout your career to adapt into what's relevant. Otherwise, you become extinct, right? So no matter what, you have to buy in.
No, absolutely. No, but I do buy in.
You do?
I do buy in because we have to change with the times. You know, we mentioned earlier on the show, Paul could only tickle players today.
Yeah.
You know, he wouldn't be able to knock them off the ball and take the ball. Times change and you have to go with them. Like you'd have adapted today, wouldn't you? Simple as that.
Yeah, I do. But I kind of think, you know, with the Logan Mayweather fight, you know, it wasn't a boxing fight. It wasn't for the.
No.
No, it was an
for the
exhibition.
stock of purists. You know what I mean? Was the same with Roy Jones against Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think you lose the purists, don't you?
It's a massive spinning event, isn't it? That's
Exactly.
what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
It's rubberneck. Look, if you shout, if it's a school playground and there's a fight in the corner and you shout fight, 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 where does everyone go? Over to the corner to watch it, and that's what this is.
I want to touch more on that in a minute, but Abs,
Yeah.
you are an incredible journalist, embarking on what is arguably the start of your career. It's all up from here. I can feel that, you can feel that, right?
For sure, 100%.
You must admire a man like this man who's been doing it for decades, right?
Massively so, and I think it's people like yourselves who inspire people like me to want to be the best and to, you know, maybe sit there in 20 years' time and talk about all those things that you've achieved. And I think the one thing about journalism for me is telling stories that you're passionate about.
Yes.
And human interest stories,
Yes.
making things relatable, and you know, you've got a power in this industry to create a narrative and to try and influence people in the right way, but not be pushy with it, and not to push your opinions and your views too much, but to almost tell the story and then let people form that opinion themselves.
The greatest privilege, like I'm about to go over to Las Vegas to cover Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder 3 on July the 24th, is that I'll get an invite to go to Tyson Fury's mansion for a day and spend a day with him on my own, interview him. The reason
It's like when Ince invited me to the golf course.
Sorry. Thankfully, I don't get invited into the ring by Tyson Fury. But I think they appreciate, you talk about narrative, because our gift is telling people stories. Sometimes that you're educating people about their own stories, and they adopt and adapt that, and it makes them more known to the world. It's a privilege to be close to the people we cover.
Do you think, just a quick one, guys, I think, like, looking at the boxing world, and you know, we talked about Tyson, we talked about Larry Holmes, Lennox Lewis, all these, you know, Muhammad Ali, Frank Boone, all these top boxers. Do you think now we're kind of in a situation in boxing where, you know, we haven't got the class of heavyweights? This is why we keep having these trilogies, and you know, Dylan White fighting, and we talked about Fury again fighting D.O. Wilder, another 3. You know, it's actually, we haven't got the level of boxers now that we used to have back in, as in heavyweights. You know,
my view is that Tyson Fury could have lived in any era.
You do?
Because he's 6'9", he's a super heavyweight. The Klitschko's and Lennox Lewis started the super heavyweight era. These guys that 6'6", 250 pounds plus, 240 pounds plus. But it's who's coming through after the likes of Wilder, Fury, Joshua, White.
But is this why we're getting people like Usyk coming up from cruiserweight to fight in the world title?
Absolutely.
Is that why?
Absolutely. I don't think we'll ever have an era again where we had the great kings, you know, the African American greats in Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Norton, Holmes. Men were different then. We know more now about brain injuries.
You're right.
We know more, and it lessens. Like we're talking about the brain injuries in football.
Yeah.
You know, from heading the ball. There's once you open up that experience and that knowledge, everything recedes. We didn't. If you don't know, you can get hurt fighting. You just fight, don't you? And I think I don't think we'll ever have an era like that, because they're going to American football now. They're going to basketball. They're going in, it's like from the Caribbean. The guys are going into basketball. They're not going to cricket anymore, are they? They're involved in different sports, and I think we are losing. We've lost that generation.
Gareth, we could go forever, and I'd love to. And I'm going to give you my number anyway, just in case you want someone to come with you to the mansion in Vegas, just in case.
Do you know one question I'd like to ask though? Have you ever seen a footballer cry over a pot of chilli?
This is what I like to see.
No, this is the moment.
Listen, it's time
for
QI.
Don't start, please.
It's time for QI-PI. We've played this once before. The man's got 100% success rate up to this point.
Did get a question wrong though.
Never been nervous, but I'm nervous for some reason today.
It's the quite interesting Paul Ince quiz. We asked Mr. Ince here 5 questions about his own career. He has to get 3 correct. If he doesn't, he has to drink whatever this spicy concoction is in this shot glass right here in front of us.
Can we share it, me and Gareth?
No, we'll share it.
Okay.
We're team.
Where's your confidence, brother?
I'm confident that we can share it together.
All right, here we go.
We're a team, aren't we, today?
We are.
Question number 1. Across all clubs, West Ham, United, Inter, Liverpool, Middlesbrough, Wolves, Swindon and Macclesfield, how many total appearances did you make in your entire career?
It's got to be within something, surely.
I'm going to give you multiple choice, all right? Is it A, 606, B, 607, or C, 609?
609.
Absolutely bang on! He's got the first one correct. Well done, Ince.
Why are you excited?
Thank God for Wikipedia. Thank God for Wikipedia.
Go on,
No, I knew it was 609. I knew it. This is going to be quite difficult. I can see it.
Your second spell at MK Dons as manager. What position did you finish in League One?
You take your time, big man.
That's a trick question, to be fair. Shall I tell you why? Because I left before the season finished. So I like to think when we finished about 15th.
13th.
Okay, that's one wrong. We've got to keep moving. We've only got 2 minutes left.
Are you not?
It was 13th when I left.
Oh.
Well, we haven't got time to debate. That's one wrong, one right.
Stato's saying that is correct.
What date did you sign a 1-year contract as player coach for Swindon Town? Was it A, the 29th of August 2006, B, the 30th of August, or C, the 31st of August? Let's go.
31st.
Oh, he's got it right again! Yes. I can't believe it! Come on, put the pressure on. Let's go.
That's a pure guess, by the way. That's a pure guess.
Human.
Why are you giving multiple choice answers?
Because you've got to, because it's a tough one.
We can't fall out between us.
No, we can't.
You established yourself in the West Ham side in the 87-88 season. Which veteran midfielder did you take the place of?
Ooh.
I would say Jeff Pike.
Billy Bonds.
Oh.
So how many has he got wrong?
Billy Bonds paid it
2 wrong.
back. Billy Bonds paid it back.
He's got 2 wrong.
Jeff Pike.
So he's got one more question.
It's always Jeff Pike.
All right, how many goals did Shearer score a Euro 96?
Oh, 5.
Oh my word.
Half each, please. No water. Half each.
In there.
Yes.
There's yours, Abs. Got 40 seconds. Oh my word.
Go on, get down, yeah, please. Lovely. Abs, congratulations. Another failure for the 2 of you.
Oh, what have you put in that, Justin?
How you feeling?
That's it.
Lovely.
That was lovely. Football at the Euros. Thank you to Gareth for joining us. We've loved having you on. Ince. I hate you, Abs. You alright? We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. You're going to have to sound off.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Ciao.
They say life is a game, gotta hop your goals. I gotta take a shot now.